Hey everyone, we are just starting live, but I'm gonna move quickly because there's a big flock coming in. So before I give any intro, hold on to your seats. I'm moving very quickly because there's a huge flock of cranes coming over, of course, to my left, where I wasn't. 1 second. Sorry if this is making you a little dizzy, but there's a huge flock that we gotta get over here. So welcome everyone, we are live from Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge, and you're getting a huge flock welcome of the Sandhill Cranes coming in. And just so you know, it's pretty windy out here, so apologies if the audio isn't 100% great. And also the sun happened to come out about 10 minutes before we started this broadcast, so they're also probably all going to fly right into the sun. But we'll do our best tonight and give you some good looks at these Sandhill Cranes on Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge. The sun is going to go that way, so I'm not going to follow them totally. Welcome to those who are joining us live. We are watching Sandhill Cranes come in and roost for the evening on the Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge. If you have any questions or anything throughout our live video, feel free to post it in the chat or in the comments, and I can answer to the best of my ability. And again, if you're just joining us, it's pretty windy out here. We are out at St. Francis Pool on the Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge. So a lot of people come out to the wildlife refuge and think that all these cranes are going to be found on the wildlife drive because that's a pretty popular spot. But they actually usually aren't on the wildlife drive. They are over on the northwest corner of the refuge, and you can't get there by car. If you come out here when you're not on a tour, you will have to hike in probably about a mile or two to see this spectacle. But otherwise, you can sign up for the Sandhill Crane tours that run at the end of October. I believe that last I heard there was one October 30th, I believe, that was still available, but you can find more information on the refuge website for some of those tours. So, and that way then you can come out with your car and you don't have to walk those 2 miles. But of course, if you like a pretty hike in the fall, definitely recommend coming out here. Like I said, the sun, of course, it was cloudy all day, and it's going to come out right when we start this broadcast. I'm assuming you all can hear me at this point, but hopefully. Those that are just joining us, looks like a ton of people just joined. We are live at Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge. I'm watching the Sandhill Cranes come in for the evening. We're out at St. Francis Pool in the kind of northwest corner of the refuge. And there is a tour group out here with me tonight from the Urban Bird Collective. And so if you hear some voices in the background, that's just them enjoying the cranes. And also you'll probably hear the thousands of cranes. I'll try to move as slowly as possible, but there's a lot to see. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and I can answer, hopefully. So right now there's just a lot of cranes coming in for the evening. They will roost here on the St. Francis Pool overnight. They'll feed on some of the invertebrates in the pool and then also just kind of sleep overnight here in this cover. This is on the side of the refuge that you can't do any hunting or anything like that. You can go on the roads with non-motorized vehicles if you come in from some of the other entry spots to the south, or you can hike in, like I said, and watch this as well. Here's some coming into land. I'm just going to kind of keep it here. This seems like most of the cranes are kind of coming into this area to land, so hopefully you can get a good view of some landing before I take you on a wild crane chase, let's say, across the pond over here. So this year, well, I should say every year, the Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge does crane counts. They start in early October and they run until usually about beginning of November. They'll do them until the cranes start dropping off and then kind of end their counts. This year already we had a record crane count for our first one, which was last Tuesday, and we had about 9,000 cranes, which is again an early season record. So hopefully this year is a really great year for the cranes. It's off to a good start. And then last year, our peak number was around 18,000 cranes. And again, that's usually at the end of October, beginning of November. And then 2 years ago, we had a record number of cranes, and we had about 29,000 cranes here on the refuge in 2022. So if you ever hear about that record year, that was a few years ago. Someone's asking, how do I get in? You're in the park now. You will have to, there's a parking lot with a gate off of County Road 5, and it's going into the west. You can park there and take the trail in, but again, it's about a mile or two hike to get back here. When it comes to the split, you'll have to take a right and then come over. And just make sure if you are coming ever for the public, when you come over to the St. Francis Pool, all you have to do is stay on the south side of the bridge. Anything to the north side of the bridge, you have to have a refuge volunteer or a ranger with you to do that because it is closed. Why do they like that pool versus all the others that are on the refuge? Good question. Probably just because it's one of the larger bodies of water. It's tucked in where there isn't a whole lot of human interaction. So like I said, you can't get back here. It's closed to the public unless you go a little bit south or come on a special tour. So there aren't any cars driving by or anything like that. And also it is on the side that there is no hunting. So that also probably reduces the human, it doesn't spook them as much. There aren't as many people coming back here. Public isn't able to see this person. No, you can come see this in person. Like I said, you can get back here if you hike or take a non-motorized vehicle. Like if you have a bike or an e-bike, you can do that. You can also park off of County Road 16 to the south and take the service roads in. I would suggest taking that one with a bike. I would not hike on that one. Yeah, someone mentioned the trail can be treacherous on the way out, so be sure to have a flashlight. Definitely, if you're coming at sunset or in the morning, you're going to want to have some sort of headlamp or a flashlight for sure. And the best times to see them are in the morning and in the evening, like we're doing. If you come during the day, you probably won't see very many cranes here. You can see probably a bunch of other waterfowl. I'll maybe give you a look later. There's tons of ducks and trumpeter swans around here as well. But for the most part, these guys will they'll come in for the evening, spend their overnight here, and then they will, after about an hour after sunrise, they will head off to the surrounding agricultural fields to feed for the day. So if you want to come up and see the cranes during the day, my best advice would be to drive around the ag fields around here. They particularly like the corn stubble that's just been harvested. I think on my way up, I saw a field that had probably over 500 cranes just sitting in them. So make sure if you're doing that, though, of course, if you're on a county road, to pull off and not trespass on any private lands. Try to zoom in here a little bit on these guys. And again, if you're just joining us, these are Sandhill Cranes on the Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge. The Friends of Sherburne is hosting a Sandhill celebration this year. The funds go toward supporting educational programs and refuge programs, so helping these cranes out and keeping these public lands so that everyone can use them. The link is in the video description. So if you could help support the cranes, that would be awesome. I don't even need to move much from this view. If one lands close to me, I'll maybe get you guys a better view, but you can see last week the refuge crane count was about 9,000 cranes, which is an early season record. So hopefully we continue seeing these crane numbers. sun's kind of playing with us here. Oh yeah, someone asked earlier how long do they stay at the refuge. They do leave when the pool freezes up. Thanks, Steve. And also, the peak migration numbers are going to be about end of October, early November. So, of course, some will stick around until the pool freezes up or gets super cold, but most of them start leaving kind of at the beginning of November. And the cranes that we're looking at, so Sandhill Cranes, there are 6 subspecies classified currently, and they, the one that we have on the refuge is the greater Sandhill crane. And so these guys are part of the eastern population, and they will fly south through Indiana, Tennessee, and then winter in the southeastern states. But because the Sandhill crane populations are getting so much better and so much higher, they are kind of crossing over with the mid-continent population as well, which is also in Minnesota, kind of more western, and those guys are the ones that go through south to Nebraska, like the Platte River Valley that you may have heard of for Sandhill cranes. Someone's asking, how do we count them? Once a week, there's a group of volunteers that come out and position themselves around this pool in various locations, and they count them going certain directions so they don't double count them, and then they'll tally them all up. They usually do it for about an hour after sunrise or a little bit after to catch them all heading out. And these guys migrate. They will go down south through, most of ours are part of the eastern population. They'll go down south through Indiana, Tennessee, and then spend their winters in the southeast. There aren't too many flying over me right now, so I'm not going to give you a dizzying view. I'm just going to stay on these nice ones that you can see here. So the Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge is located kind of between Princeton and Zimmerman to the west off of 169, and it is over 30,000 acres of public land that you can come out and enjoy. A lot of it is closed from March 1st through August 31st because it's a wildlife sanctuary. So during those times you can only go on the specified hiking trails. So make sure to check that out before you come visit at their website. But otherwise, after September 1st, you can kind of explore some of the more refuge trails and the refuge roads. Just make sure that you do still check out that public use brochure, because there are some areas that are off limits to the public. Kind of see them coming in for the evening. And again, if you come up here during the day, I only live about 5-10 minutes from the refuge. There's some cornfields, depending on the day, that have probably 500 to 1,000 Sandhill cranes in them throughout the day. So you can kind of drive around, make sure you don't trespass on any private lands and you're being safe on county roads, but you can still see the cranes even if you don't come up during sunrise or sunset. Are you looking through the spotting scope? Yes. So I'm using a phone scope through my spotting scope so you can see these guys from much farther away. And they're really just kind of putting on a show for you over here, so. Sandhill cranes do breed on the refuge too. I think they usually estimate there's about 50 breeding pairs. That may be updated as of this year, but if you come during the summer, you may be able to see some of those guys and their little colts. Generally, Sandhill cranes will mate for life, and they'll co-parent, so the father doesn't just ditch out and do nothing. They'll be around with the baby. They usually lay about 2 eggs on average, but only get to raise, I think the average is like half of a baby survives, which of course is impossible. So that's part of the problem with why the population took so long to recover when, traditionally in the early 1900s, we overhunted them and took over their habitat. It took them a while to come back and took some real hands-on management to get the cranes back into the wild and get their population numbers up, because they have such low numbers of babies. So again, for those joining, we are at the Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge. We are at the St. Francis Pool, which you cannot drive out to, is not on the Wildlife Drive. It's in the northwest corner of the refuge. If you want to make it out here during sunrise or sunset to see these guys, you will need to park either off of County Road 5 and hike in, or you can do it from County Road 16 to the south, but I would advise taking a bike from that route. It is about a 2-mile hike out here, so you gotta do a little bit of work, but it for sure is worth it. The peak times for these migration numbers up here are the end of October through November, early November, excuse me. And you can just see the sheer number that are coming in. I'll give you guys a quick look around. This is the best spot to view the cranes, but I'll just do a quick scan and show you what else is kind of flying around. We have tons of waterfowl species out here. I saw some northern shovelers, tons of mallards, and there's some trumpeter swans, a bunch of things that I can't quite tell from this angle of the light, but you can see there's lots flying around. We also have a group out here. If you do want to come out and see these guys and don't want to hike your way or bike out here, you can sign up for the Refuge Sandhill Crane tours, which are usually led at the end of October. I think most of them are full at this point. They usually go on sale, or I shouldn't say sale, they usually open up for tickets or sign-ups in the middle of September. So if you missed it this year, definitely make sure to check it out next year. Set your calendar for that. And there's a bunch way out there. You can see all the ducks feeding as well. We also have tons of Canada geese out here, trumpeter swans. Here's kind of a nice view of some coming in and landing. Again, all of those gray things out there are Sandhill cranes. So again, the first and previous crane count on the refuge last week was about 9,000 cranes, which is an early season record. So we're really hoping that those numbers keep up and these cranes can continue to enjoy the refuge. If you want to support the cranes and the refuge educational programs, as well as programs like these, you can do so at the link in the description. We're hosting a Sandhill celebration to celebrate these guys on their migratory stopover. There's a bunch of waterfowl and ducks. As you can see, just kind of scanning right now for those that just joined of what's going on here at the pool. The wind has actually died down a little bit, but I apologize for this shakiness. There's some more. Oops. Trying to go slow not to make you completely dizzy, but I'll get back to the cranes soon. You can kind of see some flying through, as well as tons of ducks. I'm going to quickly go, so if you get dizzy, close your eyes for 5 seconds. We'll get back to the cranes. You can likely hear them all in the background. And here's where the majority of them are sitting, way across the pond. can hear some mallards quacking in the background as well. Lots of Canada geese coming in too. See if we can zoom in a little bit for you. So I said this before, but for those who weren't on, the refuge has one of 6 subspecies of Sandhill Cranes. They're the greater Sandhill Crane. These guys are generally, we have the eastern population, so they will, after, the beginning of November, when they start leaving here, they will head south, kind of through Indiana, Tennessee, and then go down to the southeastern states. Because the Sandhill Crane population is doing so well, they kind of have the populations in Minnesota have sort of mixed with the eastern population and the mid-continent population. Generally, those were more western Minnesota, but there has been some studies that show that they have sort of started mixing together because they're expanding their habitat, which is great news. But that mid-continent population of Sandhill Cranes will go down to the Platte River Valley in Nebraska, which many people are familiar with. And if you're not, you can Google that and check out some videos of the tens of thousands of cranes they have there. Can you see the sandhills on the normal wildlife drive? Not like this. So generally the wildlife drives, you can maybe see a few, but otherwise that's not really where you're going to see the sandhill cranes. We are up on the St. Francis Pool, which is in the northwest corner of the refuge. It is, to get back here, you either have to take a 2-mile hike in, or you can take a bike ride, which is much longer, from County Road 16 to the south, or you can sign up for a tour, which run at the end of October. Generally for the refuge, they open those sign-ups for the tours in mid-September. I believe most of them are full for this year, but again, they do them every year as well. If you want to come see Sandhill Cranes, or you come up during the day, my best advice would be not to come to the refuge, but actually drive around the refuge, especially to like the northwest. Look in recently harvested cornfields, maybe some soybean fields. Generally, when I'm driving around during the day, I can see some fields have like up to like 500 to 1,000 cranes, depending on when they were harvested. So you can still see them. But as always, if you're looking around on county roads that are not on the refuge, make sure that you're respectful of private lands and mindful of other cars. So if you've never been up to Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge, even if you can't come see the cranes in the fall, which of course we highly recommend, it is about 30,000 acres of public land that you can explore from March 1st through August 31st. A lot of it is a wildlife sanctuary, so you can't go on many parts of it, but there are some designated hiking trails that are open all year round. But after September 1st, you can go back on most of it. There are a few areas that are off limits to the public, or you have to be on a guided tour, like coming in from this angle. But again, you can reach this pool by hiking in a few miles, and then just making sure you stay south of the St. Francis River Bridge. When you get here, you'll know what that means. Wonderful zoom size today. Thanks, Dean. I finally figured it out. There aren't as many flying over my head. We got out here at about 5:30 just to scope it out to see where we should sit. And there were a lot coming in at about 5:30. So if you want to see, if you're looking for flocks flying over your head in masses, I would suggest being out here by about 5:30 or an hour before sunset. I believe it's 6:30 today. You can see the cranes out there eating. Some of them will feed on some of the invertebrates in the water. Some of them will just kind of hang out and roost overnight. A lot of times when they sleep, it's on only one leg, so that's kind of funny. Like a flamingo or something. And I'm assuming there are probably more than 9,000 cranes here today, probably at least 10,000. The next refuge crane count will be this upcoming Tuesday, so we will be posting that, the results of that on our Facebook page as well. So make sure to track that and follow it. And if you want to give back to these cranes and the refuge educational programs and lands, you can do so at the link in this video description. We're trying to reach a goal this year of $3,000 to help these guys out. Likely hear most of the cranes in the background. I'll do a quick scan to the right just so you can see the kind of sunset. Can't see as many cranes over there. They're mostly all sitting on that sandbar. You can kind of get a view of where we're at. Some beautiful fall colors. I think the DNR map said we would be in peak about right now or next weekend, so although the wind today took out quite a few leaves, so maybe it was yesterday that was peak. So the St. Francis Pool, there's kind of two little ponds. They're connected, of course, but there's one in front of me and then the ones that the cranes are on. Most of the cranes are on. There's a few over here to my right as well, way back in there. Lots of ducks and mallards as well. There's some cranes sitting over there, tucked in a little bit closer for you to see. There's some flying overhead. You just kind of doing a quick scan. I'll get you back to the main crane soon. Here come a few through the shots. We also had a lot of Canada geese, some mallards, a bunch of northern shovelers coming in, lots of other waterfowl species as well. Trumpeter swans. Tundra swans would be pretty cool, but not yet. There's a trumpeter swan right there, speaking of. I can show you guys that just for something a little different. So the trumpeter swans will be here on the refuge too. They breed here. They don't quite congregate like the Sandhill Cranes do in the evenings. They're a little bit more solitary, but sometimes you can see bigger flocks of them as well. All right, I'm gonna take you back to where most of the Sandhill Cranes are, so if you get dizzy, close your eyes for 5 seconds. All right, so now we're back to where the majority of the Sandhill Cranes are coming in and roosting for the evening. You can just see them flying through the scope view here. I am using a scope. If you come out here, definitely you're going to need to bring binoculars for sure. If you have a scope, that would certainly be helpful. But even if you don't have a scope, if you have binoculars, you'll do just fine. They honestly fly right over your head about an hour before sunrise, or sunset, excuse me, so. We're looking at Sandhill Cranes on the Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge, probably over 10,000 of them here now. Last week's crane count was 9,000, which is an early season record. The overall record for the refuge was over 29,000 in 2022, so we're off to a good start this year. Maybe we could beat that. That'd be pretty neat. Try to get some landing here for you. And Sandhill Cranes, if you guys come, are generally gray, but on the refuge sometimes they kind of have a rusty hue or a red hue. That's because of the red colored soils that we have here. When they're preening themselves or rolling around, they kind of get that color on their wings or on their feathers. It's actually a little bit nicer lighting now that the sun went down. And again, if you want to come see these guys, they are usually start coming in here about an hour before sunset, or if you come out in the morning, they leave about an hour after sunrise. So either that, or like I said, you can wander around some of the agriculture fields, especially to the kind of northwest. You can check out the Sandhill Crane viewing brochure on the Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge website. We can also link it in this video afterwards. Those are mainly all Sandhill Cranes, some Canada geese mixed in there, as well as some duck species. Hard to tell with the backlighting. I know there was a bunch of mallards and northern shovelers wandering around when I first got here. See if I can track these guys for you. They land nicely on that sandbar. There you go. Joining the rest of the 10,000 or so Sandhill Cranes on the refuge this evening. Probably end this live stream shortly, so if you guys have any other questions before we go. Again, we are at the Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge watching Sandhill Cranes. Make sure to check out the Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge website if you want to come visit and see these cranes. They are not on the Wildlife Drive. We're up in the St. Francis Pool. It is a 2-mile hike in, or you can come with a guided tour and come through the restricted area, but you need to have a refuge staff or volunteer with you on a guided tour for that. Otherwise, drive around the area and see these cranes during the day in the agricultural fields. If you want to help support the cranes and the refuge educational programs, make sure to do so through the link in our description on this video. So I'll just leave it here for a little bit and then we'll sign off, and hopefully you all get to come see the cranes and enjoy them soon. Thanks everyone. We hope to see you at the refuge soon. Have a good night.